Listen, for someone we not supposed to fuck, there's a lot of love songs about him.
There's a lot of love songs about him, and they will not show us any versions of him that are ugly. He is always hot, always has abs. He's a sex symbol that we can't have sex with.
And men and women praise him and sing love songs to him, but they mad about same-sex unions.
I'd smash like Jesus, but I don't want all these men smashing each other. That's me and Jesus' relationship is different.
The government growing babies, microchips in your anus. All koala bears are racist. The ozone layer owes me money. Martians invented turkey stuffing. Y'all can't tell me nothing.
Yup. There it is, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another phenomenal episode of My Mama Told Me, the podcast where we dive deep into the pockets of black conspiracy theories, and we finally work to prove that the X in Lil Nas X stands for xylophone. That's right. This motherfucker is upsetting people left and right. Not only is he putting queer images in front of our innocent 38-year-old black men, but more importantly, he's coming up with silly Billy ass names like xylophone. This guy's a problem. He's a real problem. Boosie's right. Everybody else is wrong. And it's all clear to me. I'm your host, Langston Kerman. I'm coming in hot, as always. And you know who's not coming in hot? Who always plays it cool? Never once have I seen her come in hot, and in a good way. She comes in the right temperature every time I see her. She's hilarious, an amazing comedian, an author. You know her from her book, Fuck Your Diet. A hilarious person, and I'm so happy she's here. Give it up for my guest, Miss Chloé Hilliard. Yeah.
I make my own sound effects.
Hell yeah. You know, the people in the background ain't good enough. You got to throw in a little extra right at the end. How are we?
What's up? I am great. Thanks for having me. It's going to be so much fun.
Yeah, it's going to be a great time. You came today with a conspiracy theory. I mentioned this to you already, one that I have desperately been wanting to talk about for the longest time. It's a conspiracy theory that I feel like I have heard my entire life, that people have argued about forever. And today we get to finally talk about it. We get to finally do it. And I'm not gonna hold us any longer. You said, my mama told me
Jesus is black. Absolutely. 1,000%. Yes.
1,000%.
You know, let me tell you something. The thing is, this doesn't even have anything to do so much so with religion as it has to do with our parents letting us know, preparing us in a very naive way to let us know that white supremacy is real, but we have to know the truth. And so it's like, forget what everybody else tells you. This is the truth. We have our own truth, and out there you can say you believe it to go along with it, but we know the truth. And so that's how I always took it as well. It's like, white people be lying to us. We know what's up.
Whoa. So you're saying that at its core, this is really more of an allegory for sort of the deceptiveness of whiteness and their actions, more than it is like definitively Jesus had an afro and a pick in it kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And also, like, what they did to Jesus is what white society does to black people. We get crucified every day. And so it's like, so that's also why black people rock so hard with Jesus, because we're like, he's us, we are him. Like, we're walking in the same footsteps, the struggle, the objectification, the slander, all of that. Like, we're Jesus. That's why black people love Jesus.
Oh, so all of this is just sort of like, it's like how your favorite rapper goes off on some shit and you're like, well, I ain't never sold drugs, but I know what you're going through, bro. Like, I connect with the experience and the challenges that you're facing.
Yeah. And it also prepares you for getting your ass kicked every day in a white society. Literally, because it's like, yo, Jesus went through this and I rock with Jesus. So am I better than Jesus? Like, yeah, I guess I'm going to take this beating every single day because of the color of my skin.
Right.
But, I got Jesus to lean on.
I like this. So let's trace this back a little bit, because I love what you're saying about this being sort of like a motivational thing, an allegorical thing, a thing that drives us to be better versions of ourselves. I wonder when you first were told that Jesus was black, and who was the person that introduced this idea to you?
Yeah. Well, I think for me, so my parents come from two very different religious backgrounds, right? And so my
Mm-hmm.
dad's family didn't really go to church at all. Like my grandmother, I remember my dad's mom smoked cigarettes, drink, go to Atlantic City, she's gambling, all of that stuff, right?
Yeah.
And my mom's mom was like saved, sanctified, filled with the Holy Ghost. So like my mom was like the church girl, and my dad was like not the street guy, but like the not saved person,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
wasn't like a thug, but he was just like a more worldly dude. And so my mom had me in church early. And so everything was all church all the time. I was to go to church every weekend. Sometimes during the week, my grandmother only played, like I grew up in a Christian Black American household.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And so we always talked about the Bible. We always talked about verses. My grandmother can recite every single verse backwards. I was in church a lot, and I was in a lot of church plays. And so my earliest realization about Jesus being Black was when we were in the Christmas pageant and we had a Black baby Jesus. And so that was the
Whoa.
first conversation I remember having, being like, okay, now listen, we know the world is this, but our world, our reality is this. And this is what you need to know. This is the truth.
Damn. Okay. So you have a Black baby Jesus. Presumably a child is acting as Black baby Jesus.
Yeah.
And are there white Jesuses in your church? Like, is the imagery also of a Black Jesus, or are there white Jesuses on the wall, but they're like, but we got Black baby Jesus?
Yeah. So it was like, I feel like most Black churches that have white Jesuses, it's like that porcelain Jesus that's like a little pinkish. It's not white. So we don't even look at it as white. You get what I'm saying, right?
Sure.
Like we see it as like, oh, he got a little bit of a tan. Like it's probably dust on that bitch. You know what I'm saying? But we like, this is not a white man how we think about white men in modern times, right?
No, it's like a Bear Grylls Jesus. He's like very outdoorsy Jesus.
Yes. So it just was a figure. But then I remember seeing like the first time I saw Black Jesus, because you also got to realize Black Jesus probably sprung out in my lifetime. I'm 40 years old. And that's, I think, when Black people started saying, we can actually say it out loud and we're going to start showing like imagery. So I remember the first time we got the church fans and it was a Black Jesus on the back of the church fans. And everybody was like, yo, you see, there's a Black Jesus on the back of the fan. Because for a while, Black churches were going along with all the white Jesus imagery, but there was like a shift. I remember when I was like, "Oh, okay, we really claiming this."
Yeah, I similarly, not at all similarly. I did not grow up in the church, but at some point in my teens, I actually like went to my mom and was like, hey, I think we should start going to church. I made sort of like a big decision to be like, hey, we got to be a church family because all my niggas talking about it and I want to know what that is.
And I wish I knew you, because I'd be like, no, you don't. Trust me. I want to be here.
I did it a few years and learned this was a terrible mistake, and I owe everyone an apology in this home.
My God.
But that said, even when we were attending Black churches, I do remember distinctly there being almost exclusively white Jesuses on the walls, and the pamphlets, all the shit was covered in the white version of him. But I do also remember, and maybe this was just ignorance of youth, right? There was never a point in me where I was like questioning Jesus in terms of his race. It was more like his moral code, his representation, all that stuff. But it was never like, why is Jesus white? It was just like, I don't know. That's who God is, you know? And I don't know if
Yeah.
that's a good thing or a bad thing. I truly, I'm torn every day. But that's sort of, I guess there is an element of deracing Jesus, if that's a word
Yes,
that
exactly.
happens in
That's what I meant.
church.
That's what I mean. Like, yes, we don't even see him as white. It's just that's Jesus.
Yeah.
He doesn't even have a race. We don't even think about, like, I don't remember ever thinking about Jesus's race until there was a moment where they was like, no, he's black. And I think also, honestly, I mean, I don't know, it could have been before my time, but my childhood, I feel like more of the black Jesus talk started happening as the conservative Christians,
Mm,
evangelicalism started rising. So like right around like Jimmy Baker, all of those people, when he was like, because white people turned out for Jesus like in a weird way all of a sudden. Like it was, Catholic, Protestant, and then boom, Christian evangelical and all of these like mega churches. And then, you got to see black people talking about our relationship with Jesus. Now you got white people talking about their relationship with Jesus, talking about their struggle, their strife. And now it's like, no, nigga, we've been
right.
struggling and praying into Jesus. How come he your Jesus now? Now you're gonna use our Jesus against us? And I think came like, we need a mascot. And they was like, Black
Black
Jesus.
Jesus. Yeah.
Like let's it's time to raise him up. So I don't
It's,
know, but it felt like it was a lot of competing, like we're the best Christians. No, we're the best, like it was weird. It was weird.
yeah.
All of it was weird.
It's reminding me of that a few years ago when Megan Kelly, I don't know how you pronounce this bitch's
Mm-hmm.
name, but when she came out and she was like Santa Claus is definitively white. And it's
Yeah.
one of those things that like again, I had never felt passionately about Santa Claus's race, but now that you're saying he's white, I'll kill you just to make Santa Claus anything other than white. I would rather Santa Claus is Filipino than accept him as a
Yeah.
Caucasian man because you are speaking to me as if this fictional character is anything other than what we've imagined him to be.
Yeah. I mean, that's like when it came out with Black Annie and he was like, Annie's not black. And he was like, Annie's not real. How about
None of
that?
it's real.
None of it is real, but it's just so crazy how people, cling to a mascot. And I know people will be like, oh, she called Jesus a mascot. But essentially,
Yeah,
they hold on to this idea of a thing so much because it has to be theirs, right? The only way truly salvation works is if you truly believe that you are deserving of salvation.
right.
And if everybody believes that they're deserving of salvation, then you have to try and quantify it because it's like, well, that means we're all equal, but we can't be all equal. I got to be better than somebody. And then that's when
Yeah.
people pervert the thing.
Well, it's one of the things that I've always really respected about the Jehovah Witnesses. You know, they put a number on that bad boy. They were like,
Man,
144,000 of y'all are gonna be cool as fuck, and the rest of y'all, good luck. We don't know, but we're gonna go.
yo,
We're gonna go door to door to prove our value and make sure that we get that spot in heaven.
yeah, but my thing is, I always took it as if y'all know how many the number is, why are you trying to get more people? You should not want to tell nobody. So therefore, stop knocking on my motherfucking door. Go keep your secret, nigga. Damn.
Listen, I said I respected a part of what they do. A big part of what they do I find obnoxious and difficult to deal with. But boy, them putting a number on it, that's the part I'm into.
It's bold. I mean, you got to really believe if you sticking to that number. You got to believe.
You have to. And boy, do they demonstrate. I mean, Prince literally died for his faith. And
Man.
it ain't great, but I respect the hell out of it.
Yeah, see, the other thing is like that when it comes to the Prince stuff, like any religion is so closely tied to your physical body, it always throws me off a little bit. Like when they be like, don't wear, don't get tattoos, don't this. And I want to be like, yo, this is a fucking Tupperware set I'm in right now. Like my
Right.
body's going somewhere else. Like y'all treating this shell way too seriously. Like
Yeah.
way too seriously.
Yeah, I'm going to burn this when I'm done with it. I'm literally going to have a person light it on fire and
you know
put it
what's
in
so
a
crazy?
jar.
And we have proof because people believed this shit before and they are called Egyptians and we got all these fucking mummies left here because them bodies didn't go nowhere. So
No, and they look like shit. They didn't get better over time.
no. nuts. So that's what you want me to leave it behind? No, this is a vessel, baby. Let's rock out.
I like that. Let me ask you this. Would you consider yourself a religious person now? You said you grew up in the church, you went through all of it. Are you still a believer? Are you still going to church practicing? Or are you like, nah, I'd serve my nickel, I'm out?
Yeah, no, I'm good. I am good. I'm good, but I'm also a good person. So for me, my moral compass has already been established. So like at my core, I still have very much Christian values, and the way in which I engage with people and treat myself, all that stuff, like that is not shit, that has not been deterred at all. But what turned me off from religion was realizing that there were people in the pulpit who were preaching who did not have like the education, the credentials, the resume, the credit score to even be preaching. And then you have people funneling money. And so when I started to see like the perversion of it, when I started to see like the business, when, my grandmother, who is like a devout Christian, she's 91. And, she watches those like Christian shows all day. And so it was around the time I was like in high school. I started playing basketball. So basketball got me out of going to church. That was the only thing that got me out of going to church.
Oh, smart.
Because my parents were like, oh, well, if she gets good, then she can get a scholarship that helps with college. So I was like, yo, basketball, like get me out of church on Sunday.
You're somebody worth believing in, as far as like if I got to put my money on a hooper, I'd go your route.
I know. Yeah, I'm 6'1". I started playing basketball ninth grade, so that was already late. So I wasn't. So if I had played younger, I would have been a much better player. But I was good enough to get the goal, which was a college scholarship.
Yeah.
And so that's how I got out of church. So once you're out of church and you start like seeing all the things that you used to have to abide by, all of the conversations around certain things based on like, someone else's regurgitations of a text, like once you start like being able to like take some steps back and look at the bigger picture, I'm like, yeah, I don't know if this is for me. Like, I get it. Don't kill nobody. Don't rape nobody. Don't steal.
Yeah.
Like, I can do that. Like, I'll abide by the 10 Commandments and like, fucking deuce it up. But all that other stuff all of that remix texting, like, I can't.
Yeah, I similarly, the thing, and I think I've talked about this before on the podcast, but the thing that got me out of church, and it's a very dumb, small thing, but it felt like a very large thing in my world at the time, was I used to go like 3 times a week, right? Again, I volunteered for this shit. And I would voluntarily take myself there 3 times a week.
I feel like you low key a sadist. Like hearing you say this, I'm like, you love torture. You love torture. You got some kink in you. That's what I'm hearing.
I really, at the time, you know what it was? I really just fucked with the stories. I was like, man, these stories are kind of cool. And I like that, like, there's all these like lessons and shit that come out of them. I just liked the reading. But then we would go to these Bible study classes, and the lady who taught like the youth group Bible study classes one day showed a video where they were sort of like explaining all the Satanism in contemporary music, that they were telling you why every artist that you enjoy is secretly worshiping the devil. And then at one point it got to John Lennon's Imagine, and they were telling me how that song specifically was him equating himself to God. But they're playing the song, and I'm listening to the lyrics, and it didn't feel like that. It felt like a dude basically being like, what if we treated everybody like they might be God, and therefore respected them and cared for them and blah, 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 blah. And I argued with the lady and was like, nah, I think there's actually a different way to interpret this. And she was like, no, that's sin. You're going to hell if you believe in it, blah, blah, blah. I was like, I can't be here no more.
Listen, and that's what really got me annoyed, because I remember them like telling kids like we going to hell. And I was like, yo, nigga, I just got here. Why are you telling me I just got here? Like, I didn't even like circle the sun that many times yet. Like, what are you talking about? And they would be like, it was just like, to me, I just never understood the fear aspect of it, right? And so if you say this God is great, this God is all-knowing, omnipotent, the Alpha and Omega, and he created us in his image, then why is he making us suffer through so much? Why do I have to like praise and worship, and like that means it's like it feels like a sycophantic relationship. You know what I'm saying? So like
Right.
it don't feel like love and joy. It feels like control, manipulation, and fear. And I have a very controversial take about the Black church, and I feel like when it comes to African Americans and our experience with the Black church, it was used to manipulate us. And so I don't understand how we are so, and that's also why I think Black Jesus came to be, right? So that's
Mm-hmm.
also how we separated. So like this is a bad analogy, but I already brought it up, so I got to go with it.
Hey, I'm excited to
When
see this go badly. Let's do it.
this is gonna go so bad, I might get canceled. Do you know how, like, when they say like a person experiences trauma, like if a young kid is raped or anything like that, they split their mind off, like
Yep.
they disassociate themselves, right? And so I think that Black Jesus is Black Americans' way of disassociating themselves from the Jesus that was used by the slavery times to oppress, manipulate, and deteriorate us
Right.
as individuals. So that's, I think, is another reason why we cling to Black Jesus, because it's like, we've given so much to Jesus and that kind of isn't been panning out. But if we give it to Black Jesus, then maybe we'll have a shot. And so
Right.
it's like this is so knowing all of that to me is just like, yeah, but if it was all the way real, we wouldn't have to do all of that. We would just be blessed, And it's like, why do I have to
Yeah.
appease this thing that I can't see? Like, where's the love in that? Like, where's the love in somebody waiting, but like you didn't pray enough, or you didn't worship enough, or you didn't give enough tithes, and that, like, where's the unconditional love in that? And so that's one thing. And the other thing I feel like when it comes to Black Americans and Jesus is that Christianity, as the remnants of slavery time, was used to teach us as a coping mechanism that our life on this plane will always be shitty
Mm-hmm.
for various reasons, which was really white supremacy, ownership, manipulation, kidnapping, genocide, rape, all of that shit. Like, that's the reason why our lives are shitty and on earth. And instead of us being like, well, we can just not make it shitty, we'll say, well, we'll suffer because on the other side, AKA when we fucking die, that's
Yeah,
when
yeah,
we're going
yeah.
to get our pie in the sky and our road to redemption. And it's like, that is, to me, I realized that was a part of the conditioning of enslavement on Black
Mm-hmm.
people in order for us to remain subservient, which is, yes, we're going to beat you, rape you, kill you, sell your kids off. But if you keep praying, the next time you wake up, it'll be someplace better. And that's to me, I'm like, this shit is conditioning. And that's also why I
Yeah.
really fell out of
It
it.
it what do communists say? I think it's that religion is the opioid of the masses. That like
Mm-hmm.
it is truly a to your point, it is a form of manipulation, whether true or not. It is constantly manipulated for control. So you have all these preachers who are able to read a book that objectively we should be able to just look at as, like you said, allegories, lessons, a moral code to set for us, and then add their own interpretations to the thing to get people to do a bunch of bullshit or give more money or service their intentions in a different kind of way. And that's a
Mm-hmm.
dangerous fucking thing. Right? Like at the end of the day, we should just be able to look at these things as stories and be like, hell yeah, I rock with this story, or hell yeah, this made me think about things differently. But we shouldn't be sitting here going like, I got to get punched in the face forever and always at the possibility that maybe there's a cool Black dude up in the sky who's like, you did it, Playboy, you get
Maybe,
to chill.
maybe not though. Like that's why I think I like to live my life right down the middle, right? It's like I do enough. I'm serious. I do enough shitty shit on the side, and I do
Yeah.
plenty of amazing things. I'm right down the middle. So, it's a toss up. Like, if there is a God or a Jesus or some pearly gate, I'm like, it's on y'all. I'm 50-50.
Damn. Let me ask you this before we go to the break, because I do think this is important. And I wonder, so you're saying you're not a particularly religious person anymore. do you still believe there's a potential God up there? Or are you like, nah, there's nothing. I'm just going to be a good
No.
person?
Listen, first of all, I can't now. Let me tell you something. You tell me who's not trying to get canceled by her black mama? This woman right here. Ain't no way I'm gonna say there's no God. No, that's not that mama. If you listening, or if somebody, I did not say that.
You're
His
good
name is
on
Langston
church, but
Kerman.
there is a God, and you still believe in all this stuff.
Yes, I do believe in all. I do believe in all the stuff, but not the stuff that makes my life miserable. Does that make
Got
sense?
you. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So this actually brings me then to my next question, which is when you close your eyes and you imagine God, because you're saying you do believe that Jesus is black. When you close your eyes and you imagine God, what kind of black Jesus are we talking about? Is he a dark skinned like Isaac Hayes looking Jesus, or is he more Drizzy Drake looking Jesus? Where are we at with Jesus?
Definitely not Drizzy Drake. Definitely not Drizzy Drake. I would say, because if you just look at the people of that time,
Mm-hmm.
right? No one was lighter than the Ritz cracker. So I think he would be like on a scale of like Flavor Flav to Elder Barge. He's probably like a Boris Kojo.
Okay. All right.
I think maybe around that complexion.
Just a dark light skin. Just
A
just
dark
a
light, yeah, a dark light skin.
Does he have the long flowing hair as he's been
You
depicted?
know what? Listen, probably like curly hair, like um, I mean, like DJ Khaled's son, Assad, like that.
Oh. I was thinking like a Corbin Blue. You remember him from
Oh yeah, no. But if you look at people from like Ethiopia, Somali, like there's like a
I
part
got
of,
you.
especially close up to the Mediterranean, they have like a nice curled texture, like full hair. So maybe something like that.
Hell yeah. So you've got an image of Jesus in your head. When you close your eyes and pray, it's this Boris Kojo with DJ Khaled's son hair looking dude listening
Yeah,
back.
something like that. Yeah.
That's beautiful.
I'm not trying to fuck Jesus, but I mean,
Nor should
he
you.
looked
I think he's a very
no, but
old
yeah,
man.
because like that description sounds like I'm out here fantasizing about a hot ass Jesus.
Listen, if ever there was somebody to be horny for, it is Jesus. He's not technically supposed to have sex with you back. So if it makes you feel more committed to him, I think that's okay. I don't think Jesus would be mad about it.
Yeah,
All
I love
right,
him. He loved me. He always with me. He don't never leave me. He always got my back.
uh
When you really think about it out of context, you be like, this sounds a little weird.
yeah, nigga, you want to fuck Jesus, you weirdo. All right, we're gonna take a break. We'll be back with more Chloé Hilliard and more My Mama Told Me. And we are back.
Like teenage girls.
When you say teenage, how old are we talking?
Yeah, we're back here with more Chloé Hilliard, more My Mama Told Me. You should have seen the look on her face, ladies and gentlemen, when she realized the button I decided to press, bringing us back
Oh
into
my
the subject of talking God and his blackness. Truly a fun one. All right, let's dig into some of this research. And I don't know how much you remember, because I do remember as a kid hearing people always reference scripture that specifically suggested that Jesus might be a black person. There's like one specific scripture that always gets sort of referenced. And it turns out, at least in my research, that scripture has been massively reworked in our retelling of the scripture. Like it's
Yeah.
never as sort of charming as people have presented it. Do you remember the specific like details of the scripture that people always bring up? Because it lives in my head.
Listen, niggas love to remix shit.
Uh-huh.
By the time it got to me, they was like, yo, he got an afro.
Yep.
His skin is like copper.
Yes.
Smooth like satin. Like we did the Marvin Gaye Smooth Operator remix on Jesus. We made him hip. We made him like ours.
Yes.
So no one could really point to the scripture, but we just was like, he black, right? When they say skin like this, they were like, that's us. And we were like, okay.
Yeah, it was, his skin was like copper and his hair was like wool.
Wool.
And it always was sort of at least suggested to me as like Jesus had like walked into the club and everybody turned and he was just glowing, handsome, and it's like, God damn, look at this beautiful Jesus with his wool hair and his copper skin and all that. And it turns out that the actual only physical reference made or any suggestion of Jesus's appearance in the Bible is after he's dead. That like they don't ever really describe what he looks like until after he's dead, and it's in Revelations. And they in Revelations, the hair on his head was white like wool, as white as snow, and his eyes were like blazing fire. His feet were like bronze glowing in a furnace, and his voice was like the sound of rushing water. In his right hand he held 7 stars. Coming out of his mouth was a sharp double-edged sword. His face was like the sun shining in all of its brilliance. This is the description that we've sort of like reinterpreted over and over again. And that reference to wool and the bronze has zero to do with his actual complexion and hair texture.
But that two things, we turned him into Billy D. Williams, like legit. That's number one, to make him ours. And the other part about that, it just goes to show, and this is when I was like, yeah, I can't really like give all my life to this energy. It just goes to show you how eager people are to take pieces of something to make it theirs, to justify their devotion to it.
Right.
And so that's when I was just like, y'all making this, like, it just felt like Stockholm Syndrome. It just felt like y'all are trying to find the good to make it seem okay that you're doing this with your life. And it's just like, just live.
100%. And to that point, this is also something that I found pretty interesting, is that the other references that they make to Jesus in the Bible basically talk about the fact that he wasn't a particularly handsome person. Like there are like a couple scriptures that Isaiah 53:2 refers to Jesus as having no beauty that we should desire him. That basically no one wanted to fuck Jesus for his face. They only wanted to fuck him for his personality. And then there's an additional scripture, Psalm 45:2-3, describes him as fairer than the children of men. So basically, which, could be, I guess, left up to interpretation that he's more handsome than the children of men, or it could just be lighter than the children of men. It's not particularly clear, but either way, these are the only physical descriptions we have of Jesus, which means that we are all being pretty silly when we go like, Jesus looked like me, Jesus looked like this. It's like, dog, we truly don't know. This motherfucker might look like an alligator, and we have no way of knowing.
That's what I'm thinking. Because that description you just read about the hair is white as wool and the feet is brown. His feet looked like they were in a furnace. His feet were on fire. Like, he could be a whole mutant. Like, we out here praying to a whole X-Men and we don't even know it. I did a joke with Yamanika. We were doing the Comedy Cellar show and we were talking about aliens. And I was like, yo, Jesus is an alien. And she cussed me and prayed for me and saying, don't you dare call my Jesus. And I said, look at the origin story. He come out of nowhere. His mother was artificially inseminated by an angel. He disappears for like 30-something years. He fucking disappears after. Like, he could be an alien. I'm just saying, be an alien.
I think that honestly is more logical to me than
that makes so much more sense to me. I'll be like, oh, now I get why we praying to this nigga. We want him to come back, alien. Yeah, I get that.
It also makes more sense than him being like a member of every race on this planet. Do you know what I mean? That like Chinese in China, if you go to China, they have Chinese Jesus. If you go to fucking Ethiopia, they have Ethiopian Jesus. If you go to Antarctica, Jesus is 3 penguins stacked on top of each other, pretending to be a man. It's all what we've decided he is, and more logically, this motherfucker might just be an alien who can shapeshift and disappear for a bunch of years.
Yo, that makes so much sense to me. Listen, that's why Stargate is one of my favorite movies. People think it was like, oh, it's corny, it was a dud. And I was like, no, they was like low-key dropping like great hypotheticals. Like, what if the pyramids were portals to other worlds? Like, I love Stargate. And so I just think it's so much cooler living a life realizing that there's other things greater than yourself and that there's never one definitive way. And I think that life is about choices. And that's what this experience and this journey of our infinite being in this universe is. It's for us to come here, experience shit, learn shit, feel shit, see if you can fucking get it right. And if you don't get it right, you come back. And if you get it right, you go to the next fucking stop on this journey.
Right. Yeah, I like that. That this isn't as much of a punitive thing as I think it sort of is being presented, but just a thing where it's like, yo, be a decent person, and if this guy's as cool as we say he is, he's gonna kind of just see that and not punish you because you didn't, count beads on a
Yeah.
necklace or whatever it is.
Like, come on, God, why you give me titties if you don't want them getting sucked?
Come on. And listen, I couldn't have said that better myself. I truly, the poetry that just came out of your mouth. If I could make that the title of this episode, I would.
I'm mad I broke at the end. I was so close to sticking it out, but
so one of the things that sort of is interesting in all of these depictions that are made of Jesus and be sort of made complicated with the tracing of Jesus is also the tracing of colonization. You talked about this earlier. Colonization and missionary work, meaning like a country that was at some point overtaken and or ruled by white people, is more likely to worship a white Jesus, right? That like if your country was dominated by white people, much in the way that America is, white Jesus becomes the standard. Whereas if you go to countries where white people have not been the dominant force or are no longer the dominant force, Jesus looks like them. And it's largely just interpretation, not actual documentation of a real person.
Yeah.
One of the things that I found particularly interesting is the sort of like resurgence of this argument of Black Jesus. And fascinating enough, the most recent resurgence and the one that sort of like reached the biggest argument came from Invisible Ink Black activist Sean King. King in 2020.
Come on now.
I know you're a big fan of Sean King, so I won't say anything to besmirch his name. But in 2020, Sean King tweeted, "The statues of the white European they claim is Jesus should also come down. They are a form of white supremacy. Tear them down and tear down all the murals and stained glass windows of white Jesus and his European mother and their white friends." Your thoughts?
You know what? Let me tell you something. This is the problem with people like Sean King, right?
Yes.
It's because they talk so much noise, right? And for all the things that they do wrong, right? They still are in a position to give light to situations and conversations that we really should have. So it is legit a double-edged sword. That's my stake on Sean King. So with that being said, I understand his argument, but I also believe that the imagery at this point is the least of our problems. And I think that the imagery of a Black Jesus is a bit different than the imagery of motherfuckers who literally own slaves being up in the middle of a town square. I think one of those things has applied hurt and harm to us in a way that's very tangible. And the other is a figment of a religious whatever, that is not, Jesus is not shooting us in the back 7 times when they come to a 911 call. So, Sean, pick something else, nigga, please.
He's going to be so happy you called him nigga.
I know. I'm also mad. I'm mad. I was like, damn, why did I say nigga? I don't mean, hold on, let me just, Chloé Hilliard did not mean nigga in a way that in any shape or form insinuated that Sean King is indeed a nigga. It is more colloquial as though it is mainstream at this point with the A at the end. Thank you. Forgive me.
That said, I 100% agree with you. I do think that we've reached this weird point in society where we're spending so much time nitpicking representation and sort of like the rules and how many we should have that we're starting to work backwards against progress. Like, I don't need a Black friend in fucking Sabrina the Teenage Witch. Like,
Mm-hmm.
black people don't fuck with witchcraft like that. We wouldn't just kick it with some weird girl who has magic powers. Don't create representation where representation shouldn't actually exist. Leave that as a white space. And so in the case of Jesus, because it is never, to your point, never, he, the figure, has never done anything negative to black people. It's only white people's interpretation of his position that's done bad things to black people. I ain't really tripping off of his representation. Now,
Mm-hmm.
is it cool to have a black Jesus? Absolutely. I like having black people wherever I can get them. But at the same time, that ain't some shit I'm willing to fight over. I'd much rather fight over changing the laws and the systems at hand
Yes.
rather than dealing in like the color of the very nice man who gives everybody fish.
Yeah, ain't nobody worried about him. Ain't nobody worried about him. That's also why I'm like, y'all give this way too much energy. Y'all give this way too much energy. It's too much. And you could be living your life and doing other things, learning things, making mistakes, like growing. It's just too much other stuff you could be doing other than sitting here praying about a rapture. It's like, yeah, you bound to die. Whether you
Yes.
die of the rapture or you die of a motherfucking choking on an olive, bitch, we all gonna die. Like, so what? You get burnt up and you don't get to die in your sleep. So what? You still dead. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and nobody talks about how painful it is to die. You know why? Because they're dead. That shit might not even hurt like that. Like,
It
it
might
might
feel
not even
good.
hurt.
Nah.
It might legit, like, you might feel the first thing and your body go into shock and then you just gone. Like, you not, come on now. Torture's different, but even then, like, if you get tortured and you die, you might your body, I feel like your brain will shut down and be like, okay, this is too much, and then like, then you just get torn to limbs. But like, we all gonna die. I don't know. I just can't live my life in fear.
So one of the things that I learned about in sort of unpacking some of this stuff, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this. Have you ever heard of the Shroud of Turin?
No, but you refresh my memory.
Okay, the Shroud, there's no reason you should know this, but apparently the Shroud of Turin is this piece of linen cloth that was discovered in 1354, all the way back in 1354. And it's believed, or well, some people believe and argue that this is the cloth that Jesus was wrapped in when he was placed in his tomb. And that cloth that they found still apparently, carries the imprint of his face on the cloth. Now,
Yeah, I heard about that.
When I looked up the Shroud of Turin and you look up this cloth, if and some people claim that this is a complete false, that like the people back in 1354 were trolling much as we would today. But those who believe it, if you look at the Shroud of Turin, there's very little argument that this imprint is that of a white man. It does not look in any way like a white person. It looks honestly more like Luis Guzman rather than like Jared Leto. You know what I mean? It's just, it looks like a Puerto Rican man at best is imprinted on this fucking shroud.
You know what? And stories like that, like, that's the things that people cling on to. I remember, a current affair, and every like once a month there was always a story about Jesus and a potato chip, Jesus and toast.
Yeah.
Woman finds a baby carrot that looks like Jesus, and it's just like and that was mainstream. So that was like how fanatical people were about the imagery and the mysticism of Jesus. That was like every news. That was basic everyday news. Yeah. We don't do that anymore. They don't do that anymore. But there was a time in America where like everybody was like Christian for real. And so it was okay to just like talk about this goofy shit in public and not look nuts. Like baked potato look like Jesus. Be like, now you hear it, be like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, go home,
watch
stupid.
a movie.
Get vaccinated, you asshole. We know what this is, this game you're playing.
Like, y'all was talking like this and y'all wasn't smoking weed. Like, y'all was bored. Y'all was bored.
So one of the other things that sort of like emerged and made it very clear, and this goes back to our conversation about how plain the Bible describes him, but if the Shroud of Turin is in fact true, one of the other things that you can sort of like immediately pull from this is just how old and ugly Jesus looked for a 33-year-old. That if this man was meant to be 33, he did not age well. He has aged badly, and he was not a good-looking man in the slightest.
Now, if Jesus is an alien, what if when he disappeared, because in the Bible, Jesus like dipped out as a kid and we don't hear about him until he's like grown, right?
Yes.
Like what if Jesus, that was not his physical body, what if he like went into the jungle somewhere or whatever, the Sahara, and got roughed up a couple times, and maybe he was a body hopper, maybe the body that came back as Jesus, and as the grown man Jesus was like somebody like a shepherd's body that the alien Jesus jumped into. Now, you hear how crazy that sounds?
Well, it sounds like the Men in Black scenario where
Exactly.
that roach was inside of that man, and that would explain why he looked so puffy and worn. That would definitely explain why he looked almost like a rodent level ugly
But
in
see,
this shroud.
that's the thing. For me, it's like if you want me to believe your part, you gotta be open to believing my part too. And they don't want to be believing my part. I'm like, yo, if he could turn water into wine, he could be an alien. No, he can't. Who the fuck turns water into wine then?
I don't listen.
And if he wasn't an alien, where's our miracles? Yo, they was having miracles every other Tuesday in the Bible. Where's our miracle? I ain't seen a burning bush. No angel come talk to me. You know what I'm saying? You know how many times I risk my life? No motherfucking omen come and save my ass. Where's our miracle at?
Yeah, they can make these miracles more contemporary. They don't have to be the same as what they went through. It could be like a cool dude on a skateboard being like, hey, you can get 3 wishes later or whatever. I don't know how it works.
Man, you know what our miracle is? Fucking finding $20 in our pocket. Be like, it's a miracle. That's our miracle.
Sure. And if we wrote it down, we could too be like Luke and Paul and the rest of the gang.
Yo, do you know how crazy that Bible would sound? Like 3,000 years from now, people being like, Tuesday, I woke up to 700 new followers. It was a miracle.
It was a miracle. Jesus did that. Oh, this is fun. So there is a book that came out in 2018 by this lady named Joan Taylor, an archaeologist. And the book is named What Did Jesus Look Like? And this is exciting because she basically studied all these archaeological remains of Jews from thousands of years ago, historical texts and ancient Egyptian funerary art, to conclude that most people in Judea and Egypt around that time had brown eyes, dark brown to black hair, and olive skin. And in all likelihood, based on all of this sort of collection of data and information, Jesus was about 5'5", the average man's height at the time. And as we've already discovered, very, very plain looking. So they pretty much did the work to figure out that he probably looked a lot more like a Middle Eastern dude of today, more than a random black dude or white person for that matter.
But that goes to show you how powerful white supremacy is, right? Because they're saying fuck science, fuck genetics, fuck archaeology, fuck everybody that lives in this area. We gonna say a white alabaster snow ass nigga lived during this time. He ain't even get. He's so holy. He didn't even get a suntan. That sounds crazy to me. And we're like, yup, he's white as snow. Yup, he is. He's white as snow. And it's just like, I do truly believe that there was a time in mankind's civilization where religion was pure, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where and those I feel like are the more indigenous faiths, right? They're more closely connected to Mother Earth and the world and animals, like they give a fuck about everything. And then somewhere along the line, religion became a tool of manipulation and power and control. And I think it's been perverted for so long that there's no parts of it right now in this version that we're being sold that feels true to me. It doesn't feel like it protects me. It doesn't feel like it gives a fuck about me.
Yeah.
It sounds like it wants me to suffer for a greater thing. And the greater thing is something that I can't even fathom in my life and my mind. And so it just feels like a lot of like gaslighting, essentially. I know I hate that term because it's so overused, but it feels like you got to suffer, especially being a black person, you got to suffer even more. And it's just like, I remember being young, being like, what do black people do? Why are we so fucking cursed? Like, why do we have the word? Like, if we praying to God, like, how much black people pray and we ain't been saved yet. I ain't getting no 40 acres. I ain't getting no mule. You know what I'm saying? I still got to pay taxes. I mean, I'm black. I'm praying every day. My grandmama pray every day. You know how much we pray? So I feel like, either there's nothing there, or black people, or the suffering of black people, or just people in general praying to God is just the fucking battery juice going to this nigga's back, because something ain't adding up.
Mm-hmm. I love what you're saying, in part because I think that it really just speaks to intention. That, like, we have distracted ourselves from the fact that, and this is worth saying, and maybe everybody knows this, maybe some listeners don't. Jesus absolutely existed. The question isn't whether or not a human being by the name, I guess, Jesus Christ. He probably wasn't named Christ at the time. He probably was named something else. But the guy that we understand to be Jesus did exist in history, but that doesn't necessarily mean that he is everything that we've made him into to being. And so that all comes with intention. The Bible, as we understand it, started as an oral history. People just said stuff out loud. They would tell each other stories over and over again. And then at some point, one asshole was like, I should write that down. And then that person who wrote it down decided to write down the parts that he or she liked, and then skip over the parts that they didn't care for as much. And then as it got recurated and repassed down and sort of like taken over by new powerful people, new versions of that passing changed the interpretations of all of these things, so that this sort of stubby, abless Mexican man turns into Matthew McConaughey 2,000 years later. And it's a weird transition
to Jesus.
Yeah, right. We just aren't being honest about what any of this stuff is, and there's no way for us to be honest. So to your point, we should really just embrace the lesson and ignore the bullshit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Exactly. But it's hard to do that, because that means that you would say that people are autonomous, and you can't control people if they're autonomous. And so that's the manipulation in it all that I can't associate with.
Yeah, I get that. All right. I think we did it. I think we fucked around and fixed Black Jesus, or at least made it more messy. I don't know what happened, but we're going to take a break. We'll be back with more Chloé Hilliard and more My Mama Told Me. And we are back.
Shut up! Give me a turn to speak!
Yeah, we're back here with more Chloé Hilliard, more My Mama Told Me. That was a clip from Dr. Phil where a white boy smacked his mom in the face, and they want me to believe that that boy is a descendant of God. Nope, not in my house. Anyway, we're still talking about whether or not Jesus is black, and it turns out he's probably some sort of brown that has nothing to do with black or white people, but he's a nice guy. Historically, we can agree on that.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to play a game. This is a fun game, a classic game on this show. One of our oldest games, our literal oldest game. It's a game called White Lies.
Ugly, you are disgusting. I'm going to kill you. Give me $200.
White Lies. It's a fun game where, Chloe, I am going to introduce to you a white conspiracy theory, a widely held white conspiracy theory. And what I would love for you to do is just unpack why you think white people tend to hold on to this conspiracy theory. What do you think is so important to them inside of this thing? What are these sneaky motherfuckers up to? You know what I'm saying?
I do.
Hell
know what
yeah.
you're saying.
All right. So this is a fun one that I had not heard before, but I'm excited that it exists. There have been countless sightings of a Loch Ness-like monster and in a lake called Flathead Lake in Montana. Apparently in Montana, there are a number of, I have to assume they're white people because I don't know that black people are allowed in Montana. But A number of white people are claiming that there is a Loch Ness monster, a 30 to 40 foot long creature in Flathead Lake. And what I would love for you to do, Chloe, is tell me why you think white people are so eager to hold on to this fake Loch Ness monster.
Yeah. So part of it is, I believe, when it comes to these stories of like mythical creatures, it's like, one, it started with boredom, right? Because there was nothing going on. People got to understand that people lived for longer, like people have lived without social media, television, phones, newspapers, magazines, books. Like people lived way longer like that than have not. And so when you have nothing going on but except waking up and going to work or going to school and coming home and doing that shit over with no fucking breaks other than like a county fair or a motherfucking hog tie or a fucking hatchet throwing whatever cornhole bullshit they was doing out there. You make up shit, right? And so one day somebody probably saw something that looked a little funny style. Maybe it was an animal they've never seen before, because the niggas don't got the internet. They don't know what every animal looked like. And then it becomes this folklore thing. And then it becomes this pride thing that they turn into a mascot for capitalism, because it's like, come here, stay at this hotel, see the thing that we have here. And then it becomes commerce, right? And so I think that is the problem with mankind in general. Is like something starts off as a genuine thought or a misconception, and then it turns into like this larger than life thing that generates income and profit for somebody. And so I think a lot of times they don't want to let that shit go because it gives them something to brag about. Because what you gonna brag about in Montana is nothing to do in Montana. So that's how they differentiate themselves from the other town. We got the Loch Ness monster. We got the monster Loch Ness. Like, they just be making shit up because they bored. And then it becomes business.
I love what you're saying about the business aspect of this, because there is probably an element of this that did come from a sweet place, and maybe sweet's the wrong word, but just an honest place where a bunch of idiots who, like you said, were bored as fuck, were looking at a lake, and they were like, damn, what if there's a monster in there? And they started to tell some people, and other people started to tell some people, and it was a fun little game. And then some sick fuck saw that happening and was like, hey, if we build a hotel next to this lake while all these people are talking, suddenly we can make this into something profitable that truly shouldn't be profitable. It should just be fun local stupidity. And we always muck things up with our own want for wealth and investment rather than just genuine joy.
Yeah. Have you ever been to Roswell, New Mexico? I have.
Oh, shit. Was it fun?
And that shit is sad. No, nigga, everybody got a fucking green ass alien in front of their store. It could be a fucking cat shop. Everybody got a fucking alien up just because they know that's what the people are there for.
Right.
Can you imagine like having to put your hard work, your business plan, going and getting a loan, open up a storefront for an ice cream shop or motherfucking restaurant, and you got to put a fucking green alien out front so the niggas that want to see aliens be like, oh, they like aliens too, let's go eat. I would shoot myself in the face.
And that is fucked up. And even more fucked up is at that point, you have to believe the aliens they're seeing this and they're like, well, I'm not going back. These motherfuckers they're making it weird. Like we were just hanging out, but now you're making it fucking hot.
Yo, right? Like this was supposed to be a secret. I told you, don't tell nobody. It's like when you sleep with that one person, like, yo, we gonna keep this between us, right? Like, I'm really private. I don't want people in my business. Yeah. Like, all right, I got you. Next thing you know, so I heard you was fucking so. You like, yeah, damn.
And now her and her friends made you the wallpaper on their Twitter. It's like, yo, chill, bro. Like,
yeah, you got a nickname and shit. They calling me Alien. Yo, I went to Earth one time. This nigga called me Alien now. Disrespecting me. You know my name.
I was just kicking it. I met a lady. She was cool. Let's move on.
That's it.
Damn.
I just want to probe your butt once or twice and it was going to be cool. But no, you had to tell everybody. Now they looking for me writing movies. They don't know my life. They don't know my story.
There is something really fascinating, too, of like, what if aliens don't even like probing butts like that? Maybe it was just a thing they tried one time, and now everybody keeps trying to make it their thing. And it's like, nah, I was just experimenting.
Listen, I feel sorry for the first aliens that came here because they picked the wrong specimen. They was picking up all them white people of middle America, and them niggas are uninteresting. And now niggas is like, where the aliens at? And they like, yo, we tried y'all. I was like, no, we different though. You ain't try the special sauce. We got the special sauce.
Right. It's like if you go to the zoo and then you stop at the squirrel exhibit. It's like, nah, you got to keep going because
there's
some
gorilla
cooler
back
shit
here.
in here. Yeah.
There's a whole gorilla back here. Silverback.
Silverback. Well, Chloe, I think we did it. This was a fun episode. Could you tell the people at home where they can find you and what cool shit you have going on?
Absolutely. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram. Both are at Chloé_Hilliard because I like white space _Hilliard. And if you want to know more about me, you can go to chloehilliard.com. I have a book out called Fuck Your Diet. I'm a television writer, producer, comedian. So you'll probably see some things that I'm working on in the future. And thank you for having me, Langston. It's so good to have a fun, adult, high conspiracy theory conversation with someone.
This was one of our least toxic episodes. So I'm glad that,
Really?
I get some real sick fucks on this.
That makes me feel like I was boring. Oh, no. Was I boring?
This was fun and healthy. This was like when you find out that carrot sticks can go in hummus. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, we're doing great stuff here. But please follow Chloe. Do all the cool things that you're supposed to do to keep up with her. And then you can follow me at Langston Kerman. And please send us any conspiracy theories you have, any drops you want to send, all the bullshit. You can send it to mymommapod@gmail.com. Otherwise, that's it. Bye, bitch.